Hey everybody, I had to come back and do a quick part 2 to my M1 Garand video because I left out something pretty important. There's a section in the video that talked about other World War II semi-automatic rifles that were used during the war. I mentioned two of them and I kind of mentioned a third, but there's another one that I totally forgot and I want to bring it up right now that played a pretty big role in the war. These German rifles definitely saw action against the M1 Garand in combat, and these are of course the Gewehr 43 and 41. The Gewehr 41 used a gas trap system. It was a semi-automatic rifle, had a 10-round internal magazine, and only about 15,000 of these were built. Now the 43 was a gas-operated short-stroke piston version. 402,713 were made. They both fired the 7.92 by 57mm Mauser, or more commonly called the 8mm Mauser. The 43 utilized a 10-round detachable box magazine, or you could utilize the common 5-round stripper clips and load it up for 10 rounds, and you're ready to go semi-auto. I can't believe I left these rifles out of the first video. Just under 500,000 were made, but they definitely saw a lot of service throughout the war and up to the war's end. Now let's move on to some other rifles. Some are very obscure, some are not. We already talked about the Sturmgewehr, but let's see what else we have. Here we have the Armaguerra Model 39. This is an Italian-made semi-automatic rifle designed by Gino Revelli. The two versions fired either the 6.5 by 52mm or the 7.35 by 51mm. Fewer than 500 were built, and they each had a 6-round internal magazine. So not many of these were made. Did they see service? Yes, but in extremely small numbers. Now let's move on to something French. I'm probably going to butcher the name, but it's the Fusil Automatique Modèle 1917. In English, the Model 1917 automatic rifle. This was a gas-operated semi-automatic rifle placed into service by the French Army in the later part of World War I. It fired the 8mm Labelle rimmed cartridge. 86,000 of these were made, and production stopped in 1918 for this rifle. Next up is a very obscure rare rifle. It is the KBSP-WZ-38M. I put the name up there because, you know what, there's no way that I can pronounce that and get it correct. This Polish 7.92mm semi-automatic rifle was used during the invasion of Poland in 1939. It was designed in 1934. It was produced from 1938 to 1939, and only about 150 were made. There were no variants. It was a gas-operated tilt-locked rifle, 10-round internal magazine. The next rifle up we all know, and it's the Russian-designed SKS. It's a semi-automatic carbine chambered for the 7.62 by 3 9mm round. It was designed in 1943 and 44 by Sergei Gavrilovich Semenov. Limited numbers of these saw service in the near end of World War II against Germany, but after the war, the SKS was produced by the millions, not only by Russia, but by China and other countries. Soon after this rifle was designed, Kalashnikov brought the AK-47 into this world, but that was after World War II, so we gotta move on. Now this almost familiar-looking rifle is the Type 4, or often referred to as the Type 5, Japanese experimental semi-auto rifle. Obviously based on the M1 Garand, it was chambered for the Japanese 7.7 by 58mm Arisaka cartridge. It had an internal magazine that held 10 rounds, but with only about 250 or so of these being made in 1945, they never saw service. This is the German Volkssturmgewehr, or People's Assault Rifle. This is one of several designs hastily created by Germany during the last months of World War II. This rifle was semi-auto, but there were select fire variants. Many of these rifles and their variants were greatly simplified because of the lack of resources and the limited industrial capacity in Germany during the near end of the war. They fired the 7.92 by 33mm Kurz, just like the STG-44. Now it's time for a throwback to the ZH-29. This is a semi-automatic rifle developed in Czechoslovakia during the late 1920s. The ZH-29 is one of the first actually successful self-loading rifles put into service. It had a 5, 10, or 20 round box magazine, and it fired the 8 by 57mm IS. A very interesting fact about this rifle is that a version of it chambered in the .276 Peterson was submitted to the U.S. Army trials, but it had no success. But as we all know, the M1 Garand was the victor of that contest, and there were several rifles involved in that. We're going to talk about one of them right now. This is the United States-made M1941 Johnson rifle. This is a short coil-operated semi-automatic rifle designed by Melvin Johnson before World War II. The Johnson competed against the M1 Garand along with a couple other rifles that we'll talk about later, but it was unsuccessful. However, it still served in World War II, especially in Special Forces units. Around 70,000 were made, and it saw some service throughout World War II. It had a 10-round rotary magazine reloadable via two 5-round M2 ball stripper clips, or you could reload it by one round at a time. Another American rifle is the M1 carbine, which we did cover in a prior video. It utilized a 15-round box magazine and later a 30-round box magazine, firing the 30 caliber carbine round. Last but not least is the BAR, or Browning Automatic Rifle. This is more so a light machine gun or squad automatic weapon. So it doesn't really fit the list, but trust me, I've got a very special video up ahead that's going to cover just the BAR. I've got something special ready for y'all. Well, I hope this covers most, if not all, of the semi-automatic rifles during the time period of World War II. If I have missed anything, please let me know in the comments below. Other than that, thanks for watching. Have a good day. Talk to you soon.